The next topic of discussion is building on our strengths, the competitive edge that independent PR firms have. I welcome the panelists for this session. Dilip Yadav, co-founder, First Partners. Kunal Sinha, founder, director, Value 360. Madan Bahal, co-founder and managing director, Adfactors PR. Pooja Chaudhri, executive director, Concept PR. Ravi Shankar, CEO, Aim High Consulting. And chairing this session is Sumita Kaul, partner at Cumulus PR Communications.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Gitika, Amit, for this. But I'm not going to thank you for one thing. And I think you guys know that, right? So, damned are those moderators who come in late. And I seem to be the unlucky one today. Archana, my friend, where are you? Here. You're luckier. You have a very specific topic. But I think earlier in the day, everything that was on this long list, as Deepak said, you prepared very hard. Old habits die hard. I did prepare, and all that preparation is now of no use. But I've learned my PR lessons, which is turn a crisis into an opportunity. So that's what I'll attempt to do, because I have a fantastic panel here, and a panel that needs no introduction, I think, right? You have the most? Yes, so that's what I said. So, round of applause for my panelists. So they're going to save the day for me. I'm going to ride on their excellent views. So in case everybody's thinking that, everything that had to be said has been said, and decides to take and you guys decide to take an afternoon nap, that's not, you might miss some trade secrets from this power-packed panel. So just to say, to set the context, our topic today is obviously a very, it's a broad stroke. And in a way, I guess it's sort of fitting that it's coming at the end. We get to talk about, what strengths of independent PR agencies are and how do we build on that. The detailed aspects have been gone over in the earlier panels, but I think we have an opportunity here to really distill those thoughts and really summarize and have takeaways for everybody here. Because I think there are agencies of every size and shape. So, a lot of the smaller agencies, me included, will have some important takeaways, from this. So I'll just open the panel with the discussion with a question, which is really we are talking about a post-COVID, world. And I think earlier panels have sort of touched upon it. But I would sort of, want to throw this open to the panelists here, that according to them, what are the two reasons, independent agencies did well in the post-COVID scenario? I mean, we all sort of have an idea that, indie agencies, I think Kunal was also mentioning to me that, extrapolated data suggests that indie agencies actually did better than a lot of big network agencies, so we can all clap for ourselves. So we will try to, sort of understand what could those reasons be. So I will request my panelists to actually give me two things that, according to them, is topmost in their minds that allowed indie agencies to do really well in this scenario. So I will end with Madan, and I will begin with Ravi.
Thank you. So, two things that come to my mind. Number one, independent agencies are just that, isn't it? I'm saying we are independent, which means we are free of shackles, which meant that we could nimbly, quickly take decisions, okay? Which meant that nothing came in the way of us servicing our clients, consulting with our clients in the post-COVID, in the COVID scenario and in the post-COVID scenario. We did not have to listen to our masters abroad or anything like that. So the joy of entrepreneurship is actually leveraged, felt the best in a crisis situation, isn't it? I'm saying you feel that you are powerful when a crisis hits you, and we were able to experience that joy. I'm not saying COVID was a joyous occasion, as much as I'm trying to say that, what ensued, was like that. That is number one. Number two, for at least, consulting companies like us, PR agencies like us, rapid digitalization meant that, not just the founders, but our clients and our people also started experiencing this independence, okay? An independent agency can only grant independence to its people and not somebody who's listening to masters elsewhere. And that happened as a result of people being able to work from home, work from wherever and stuff like that, and clients being okay with again, shackle-free scenarios where they could, work out of Zoom, have meetings over Zoom and Google Meets and stuff like that. So I think post-pandemic scenario really made us independent in more ways than one.
Okay. You could pass it on. I have a mic.
Yeah, I think enough has already been spoken on this through the day, and it's been some valuable insights in that. It's a no-brainer. Our nimbleness, our take-to-market adaptability, our independence, as Ravi just said it right now, has really been our strength. We were invested in the market, and we really had our skin in the game. We understood ground realities so much better than anybody else sitting in any other international market. And therefore, we were able to adapt and take quick decisions for the benefit of our clients as much as for the benefit of the company and ultimately the people that make that company. For me, it's a no-brainer, really, yeah.
Okay.
So I strongly believe everything, nimbleness, ability to change, ability to adapt, everything is critical for the kind of growth that we saw post-pandemic for independent firm. But the most important, I believe, is the fact that it is entrepreneur-driven. Each of these independent agencies are driven by an entrepreneur and not a professional-run CEO. Nothing against a professional-run or a professional CEO here, but an entrepreneur within themselves, they actually build a lot of layer of people who are there, who are made to think like an entrepreneur. So alone, one of us could not give that growth to our firms, looking at putting effort from our own side. So I strongly believe within Value 360, we've built a culture of being an entrepreneur, run your own shop, and be passionate. So I do strongly believe that the only one reason that we grew faster or every independent firm grew faster was the fact that it was a culture of entrepreneurship that is developed in each of these independent firms.
So I think the pace of growth, and since we are talking about the fast and the slow part of the growth, is a function of how competitively you are kind of pre-programmed or predisposed to play it better than others. I think by the very nature, because independent firms are independent, they're more local, they have a better grasp on the local environment. I think we were able to understand what was going on, and I think that worked better for us. Because eventually, given the fact that this discussion is about, independent firms, so you have no choice but to compare yourself with the networks. And I think the two things about networks versus independent firms, which are very important, is one is the homogeneity versus the heterogeneity part. I think independent firms have greater amount of homogeneity, and which is really an extension of the founder's thought process, vision, ideas, personality, and everything. Networks, on the other part, while they're also very strong, powerful business machines, but they are more heterogeneous. And that's also because they've been built by assembling or collecting a lot of these homogeneous units. So I think it is the homogeneity of the thought process, ideas. We were in that survival mode. And when you have your stakes in the business and when you have your skin in the game, you're going to fight it out till your last breath, which is probably what you're not going to do when you're trying to save somebody else's ship. It's not really on your own. You're just doing a job. So I think that's the difference.
Thank you. It's an interesting question if you reflect back. And in our experience, what worked was that we were more engaged than ever before as a firm at the time of the pandemic than at any other time. In fact, I remember we have some leadership bench of 150 people, and we would have a call every day for 1 year for about half an hour, just figuring out what is going on and just creating a sense of reassurance. Another thing that helped, that only an independent firm could do, was to, in early April, the pandemic set in March, in April we said not one person will lose a job. We had 1,300 people. Not one will lose a job. Equally, not one income will be dented. Thank you. And therefore, if that is the kind of certainty you have here, free of anxiety for your job or your family or what happens to you, then just all hands on the deck, work hard. Let's. And we had a slogan early enough that 25 years in our history, we have never had a negative growth. And we said we are not going to have a negative growth this year too, even if we grow 1%. We did a little better, we did grow 2%. But you need to, what is the thing that differentiates founders and entrepreneurs from lesser mortals? Correct? It is this audacity to take risk, bindas ekdam, chalo karte hain, dekha jayega kya hoega. Carry people with you, create a shared dream, create a shared vision of the future, create a sense of, there was so much anxiety about health, about death, about income, about job at that time. And if you say, kuch nahi hoga, chalte hain, that itself, I think, creates a unspoken advantage that results in whatever results. So I think these are the softer aspects are more important. Of course, you keep investing in learning and development at the time. You launch new products. We hired some of our best talent in that 24-month period. So I think that worked.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I'm glad you talked about the softer elements, because being a founder and a woman, I think we women tend to kind of give a lot of attention to this. So it's great to hear you say that. I think in pandemic times, that was really the critical thing. And if, independent firms were looking into that aspect, well done. So fantastic. So I would now like to play the devil's advocate. We've, through different panel sessions, we've all spoken about what we need to do, what are we doing right, what could we do more. But right now, I want to just take the conversation now in the other direction, that, okay, we've got into, why independent agencies did well, which kind of gave us a sense of, where our strengths are. But I would now like to discuss what, according to you, could be the two threats where we, as independent agencies, could have a disadvantage in the coming few years, as times change and there's increased globalization. More and more global companies, big and small, are coming into India, looking to have a presence here. There are a lot of global networks here. So what really could possibly be a disadvantage for us? Because I think therein there'll be lessons for everyone present here. So what are the things we could be vigilant about? So again, I'm opening this up to all the panelists. If you could just talk about one or two specific disadvantages as of now. Of course, disadvantage is not something which is permanent. If we know what those threats could be, we can work around that. But anything that, comes to mind if you're looking at future?
Yeah, so to my mind, the primary threat would come from not being learning organizations. I'm saying if we stop being learning organizations and if we surrender our soul to, things like ChatGPT. Pardon me, no offense meant to whoever said it on stage, but I felt like laughing when somebody said, okay, our specialization will come from ChatGPT. My goodness, that's like a scholar saying my PhD is going to come from ChatGPT and stuff like that, and it's just some reams of paper that needs to be produced. I'm saying, see, that is, to my mind, very preposterous, very immature. I think so long as the organization believes in its, a lot has been said about culture, no? I'm saying resident culture. Culture is, the collective set of ethos that we subscribe to and the set of knowledge on which that is layered upon. As long as we believe in that, as long as we will continue to learn as organizations, I feel we will be okay. And that is also when, A, we will be able to attract good quality talent, B, future-proof ourselves against whatever threats that might come. Okay? The belief in creating learning organizations, I'm saying being in a business which requires investment of mind space, I think that's the primary asset that all of us need to sort of hold and subscribe to. Thank you.
I think India is today in such a sweet spot. The world's eyes are on India. And I am not an economist specialist to reel off numbers and data, but clearly we're poised for growth, and GDP numbers and everything else is there to back up for it. I think the only threat that we stand to face is, given the young country that we are, the young population that we have, we talk about talent, but if we're not going to give that youth a voice and a platform to speak up, to believe in their ideas and thoughts, I think that would be the biggest threat that we stand to face.
So if I may say, so I think the challenges are, number one, not consistent. However, if you look at the structure of the independent firms in the market, and you will find that predominantly the big difference between, so I think the same challenge which is there for a not such a large independent firm versus a large firm would be very different. Because I think for the predominantly large number of independent firms, the biggest challenge would remain versus networks would be investments and strengths of functions beyond the practice of PR. So your investments in being able to, for example, your investments in technology, your investments in human resources development, people, manpower, which will run that function, your investments in financial systems and practices, your investments in your marketing and sales processes, I think those are the non-PR practice functions. Clearly, the networks are much smarter, better with those functions. So I think that is a biggest challenge. However, if there are smart ways and means of either outsourcing or working with common pools, that could be solved as well. Though, of course, it's not so easy. So that's my view.
So if we talk about threat, let's look at how the content consumption landscape is changing right now. If you look at the generation next, people are talking about whether print will remain important or online will remain important. But the question is going to shift, even whether the online publication will be the source of content consumption for the new generation that we need to talk to. And the complexity in this will only going to grow. And just to add to Dilip's point, that where we need to actually invest on is where we are setting up right processes, hiring great talent, giving right kind of a training. But in this complex structure, you need right set of technology intervention to be able to navigate it. Imagine we're talking about today influencer taking a front seat in terms of communication. And today, right now, influencer campaigns sometimes have 100 to a 500 influencer being made to be part of campaign. This is going to become 1,000 or even 2,000. A human-led process will not let you manage that kind of a intervention. You need AI, you need technology to do that. A lot of global firms are investing in tech right now, and they will have that advantage. We'll have some tools that will be available for our firms as well, which is a global license tool. But I strongly believe, and we are personally investing a lot on the tech side of it, because the threat will not be from the global firm. It can come from a young startup which is going to come and disrupt this particular market with a technology. Because the world is now, everything is going digital. Today, what we are doing, tomorrow it might not be relevant. So I do not want to sit and become a Nokia and BlackBerry of the... We need to actually start to adopt to technology, invest in technology, understand the technology. And that is the big threat that I'm seeing that can actually impact our industry, because it is completely getting disoriented right now. It's completely reoriented right now, because we're seeing that the newspaper generation is moving towards a minority stakeholder. The young ones, my daughter, teenager, she's consuming content through user-generated content. How are we going to actually become part of creating a right set of channel for user-generated content when we are actually working with a brand like a FMCG brand or a mass consumer brand? So effectively, that's what I feel that we need to actually start adopting to technology in this world.
So there is another one before, sorry, I'm jumping in, is the leverage part. So global networks, I believe, because they work in different markets, those markets operate differently, they have a stronger leverage. For example, because I've straddled both sides, so if you're part of a network, you know the US team is hiring people who are probably the same eligible candidates who would choose between a McKinsey and this global firm. In India, that's will never happen. Somebody is looking at because probably either from a talent opinion side as well as from the firm's ability side, so you have a different leverage, you have a different talent pool, you have a different access to different set of resources. So they are able to leverage those and to stream that knowledge through transfers, etc., into different markets. I think that's where the challenge for independent firms is the largest.
Yeah, good.
I think many interesting points shared, but the additional point one can make is that the threat is not external. External is only opportunity. The threat for every independent firm or founder-led firm is internal, and the founder is the biggest threat or the risk. The second set of risk is the immediate leadership around you. The world has changed so dramatically in the last 10-year period, even more dramatically in 5 years, even more dramatically in the last 3 years since pandemic. The post-pandemic world was a new set of complexities, and post-GPT is an entirely new bull in the PR agency, right? So if you don't have a leadership that can come to terms with this fast-moving environment, that is the biggest risk. Redundancy is the biggest risk inside the firm. And the first thing that a founder should do is be alive and agile and get rid of all such people at the leadership level without any feeling any remorse or ये मेरे साथ इतने साल से था मैं क्या करूँ उसको निकालो पहले. Because if you don't do it, you're doing it at the risk of the future of all its stakeholders, including you may have 15 employees, I may have 1,500 employees. You may have 16 clients, I have 600 clients. But we are putting the future of all of them at stake by not having the courage to act against our own inhibitions and against the redundancy that senior leadership have. And the only way to navigate the future is to have a bunch of good leaders around you who can take in the future as it comes and to have a grasp, make sense of the complexity that's around, and help clients navigate that complexity. So I think that is the single biggest thing. After that, there's a menu of 20 things. But if you don't have a leadership in place, all 20 will fail.
Wonderful point, Madan. And I'm glad to say I took your advice without knowing it about 2 years back. I made myself redundant and hired a smarter CEO. So, you know, so I walked the talk. So yeah, I think that's an excellent point.
I'm just going to go back to Kunal because I remember we had offline conversation also on, the need for independent agencies. As I said, we are all of different sizes and shapes here. Some may be way ahead in terms of adoption, digital ramp up. I know Adfactors for one just recently did massive training program, I think for like how many thousand employees. So I know a lot of agencies are doing a lot, but I'm not sure how much, this is percolated down. So we need to recognize that need. So maybe you can speak a little more about that. But after that, I do want to open, to other panelists about again, as I said, I'm the devil's advocate, the threat aspect, because, there is a sense that, there's a disruptive aspect, which I think Ravi also sort of spoke about, that are we going to blindly adopt technologies that are coming our way? And why I'm saying that is there any way that we think that network agencies because of being global in nature and, some of our, the US or UK markets are a little ahead of the curve, they may have had more time to test out those technologies and the impact than we may have. And so should we be rushing to adopt, a lot of those into our practice? So I'll begin with you, Kunal.
So, and a great example, how effectively within the first month of ChatGPT launch, Adfactor did an entire training for the
Correct.
complete workforce.
Right.
I've not heard of any global firm to take this up so quickly. And this also sets the pace for the fact that when there are new technology that is coming our way, we need to adopt it rather than making them enemy. And largely, the fact that we at a founder level, if we are able to actually look at empowering our people quickly enough with the new tool and technology that is coming, that is the best thing that we can do for our company, for our organization, and for our people. Coming back to the other point that you wanted to ask, I think from a PR firm, we have now new set of opportunities that are opening. And now we need to quickly understand, realize, and jump on to those opportunities. And those opportunities are coming in various forms and shapes. Like Rahul mentioned that how they're actually developing their multimedia design aspect. Similarly, within influencer was always part of PR fraternity. But if you look out today, there are companies like One Impression, there are companies like Cofluence, there are organizations like Moment, who are now taking that pie and they're becoming specialists there. So what is happening is that what could be our kitty and what could be our revenue is now moving on to a new specialist organizations. Now, this is where we need to actually also start to move fast in terms of realizing and taking up on this. And I have people might differ in this, but I have a belief that best of the organization globally, like Volkswagen, they wanted to sell to different consumers, so created different brands for different consumers. So created Audi for the luxury, super luxury, Lamborghini. Similarly, if I go somewhere today and I say that I also do digital, come what may, they will always see me as a PR first. And that would be very difficult to break through that particular mindset. They would go for a specialist digital agency. And that's the reason I do believe that you need to actually build a specialist organization with a team that can be hired for that specialist department. And that is where I strongly believe that we are actually investing in creating specialized identity and specialized firm which can offer that and is not seen with the lens of that, okay, we are a age-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old PR firm which is also trying to do digital. You'll always fail to impress as much as you are able to impress for your PR skills.
So you mean a division, not a division, but a separate...
See, actually, it is very similar to what a lot of advertising firms have not been able to do by trying to do PR. Exactly. So similarly, now in terms of us being a PR organization, if we are trying to actually pick up on the digital side of it, we have to do it with right intent, right identity creation, right brand building, because we will be suffering because of our own imagery, that we are best at doing PR. And that would always be the first lookout for any client that we are actually servicing. Imagine today, Adfactors said 600 clients. That means there is an opportunity of 600 digital mandates as well. But I can guarantee that there will be about 20%, 25% of digital mandate being handled by any agency that is managing any scale of business. That is the big opportunity that we are missing out on. So that's my point there.
Okay. I'd like to get a counter view from Ravi.
Yeah. So taking a leaf out of what Kunal said, see, the whole world is going through an upheaval when it comes to what is happening with the knowledge pyramid. Knowledge pyramid, for the uninitiated, there is data, there is information, there is knowledge, and on top of that, there is wisdom. You all know that famous joke where knowledge is knowing that tomato is, not a fruit, but a vegetable, but, shouldn't be putting it in the fruit salad is, wisdom. So the layer of wisdom is what we need to build in organizations if we have to make sure that technology is an opportunity and not a threat. What is this knowledge of wisdom? Knowing that technology in the future will take care of, out of the 5 Ws and 1 H, okay, what, where, when, who is going to be taken care of by technology. The deeper level questions of why and how, okay, if we have such people who are capable of answering the whys and the hows for the clients and for the media, then I think we are in good stead. And that's what I also meant when I said, to build learning organizations. Learning organizations don't care too much about data and information, but worry a lot about knowledge and a lot more about the wisdom or the insights that we can bring into the work that we do.
I think Kunal, to be fair, did mention about content, which is why I wanted to take it further, because I think while he spoke about technology, I think that point about content was made, and that is the core work of, that's a PR practice. So I think that'll always sit on top of, technology, and it's going to change every day, and, the vehicles may change, like we've seen, with online platforms and social media and everything. So it'll be ChatGPT tomorrow, there'll be TAT-GPT or whatever it is. But I think what we bring to the table will always be, central to the piece.
So I have a slightly different view. My view is that, as independents, the choice is in front of us. Where is that we want to build the big flywheel, which is going to, create that value for our clients or whatever markets we are serving and ourselves. So it's always about, what is therefore going to be that competitive advantage. Now, a business can, like what Madan said, focus on just building a flywheel around how to scale up business. Then it doesn't matter what business you are in. I'm sure, Adfactors, were they working on healthcare as a business, they would have scaled that up also because they've cracked the code. So it's a question of, where is that you're going to build that flywheel. You can try and build that flywheel around distribution through technological methods, processes, tools. Now that's one stream. Or you can build a flywheel like most independent firms do, is to focus on purely providing their advisory and consulting to your clients in terms of how to communicate. Now you can have the best, most robust distribution system, whether through media relationships, media buying arrangements, or digital networks. If you don't know what to say, which is going to resonate with people and which is going to make the real impact and which is not just a manipulated impact, you're not going to succeed. This is the leadership concern. That is what, at First Partners, we find that when we're talking to business leaders, they are worried about, what I'm going to say and what impact is going to have. So I think the question is, the fundamental question is, and it's a choice. As independent, we have the flexibility. Yes. If I was part of a network, I would say I have to do everything. I must have a distribution engine, I must have a content creation engine, I must have an advisory mechanism. I will have everything. I can do that. And I can draw strengths from different markets of the world to do that. As independents, I can't do that. So I have to make a choice. So I think it's the choice, and that is where the entrepreneur's personal vision, interest, skill, capability, and the desire comes in. Because as an entrepreneur, the biggest thing one needs to do is to make a choice. And that's not easy. And to make that choice, you need to have clarity. And clarity is something which is unclear to most people, because this is where the biggest fight is. So I guess it's a question of being able to point your finger onto where I'm going to put my building my flywheel, onto, so it can generate the next level of value for me.
Okay, got it. Pooja, I'll just like to bring you in and get your view on the disruptive versus constructive sort of, role of technology, and what's been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think technology has helped in more ways than one. The pandemic, for one, showed us how to be quick in adapting to a digital-first approach. Yeah. Newspaper consumption or news consumption patterns and habits changed. Print ceased to exist. We saw the birth of more and more online media houses. Then soon enough, they went behind a paywall when they had their readers hooked.
So we all suffer from that.
Yeah, so I think, we've been at the forefront of adopting technology as well. We do have a digital-first approach. In fact, most of our PR mandates today are integrated. So to answer your question or point about being seen as a PR only and not a digital agency, I think today more and more clients are seeing the need and value in having an integrated approach to their comms plan. Even when it comes to disruptive tech, I think we'd like to test the waters first to see how it works, rather than just jumping or rushing into it. And that said, I think technology cannot replace the human connect, the human touch, and ultimately the human intelligence and also the wisdom. I think that's how we see it clearly.
So none of you believe that content writers will be redundant soon, thanks to ChatGPT? There's enough being said on this that it's getting smarter and smarter.
Even to get to those bullet points that needs to be fed into ChatGPT, you need some good thinking. And for that, you need to have some good understanding of the context, the people, and that, I think, cannot be substituted, by a human brain cannot be substituted with a machine to do that.
So that's a relief. We continue to be relevant. Okay. I don't think we have a lot of time left, so I want to just, discuss two more points. We've touched upon technology. Pooja, I remember in an offline chat had spoken about, how PR agencies seem to have indie PR agencies seem to have the specific, they seem to have an environment that fosters entrepreneurship. And we seem to be churning out, more entrepreneurs than, let's say, regular network agencies. What do you think we do to kind of, have that? And is this something that'll be a strength for PR agencies as we go along? Because why I'm saying this is, all of us founders here of small or big agencies, we've fostered a lot of entrepreneurs ourselves. Yeah. Madan, do you have a count on how many entrepreneurs you may have?
I think there's some in the room, probably.
Yeah?
No, everybody who's still inside is also an entrepreneur. Who is left is also an entrepreneur. I mean, you have Arwa Hussain there who runs a 100 crore business herself. Is she an entrepreneur? She drives it herself. She wants to become a 1,000 crore business in the next 5 years. So who can stop her entrepreneurial spirit? Or Arpit wants to do something, or Vikram wants to do something, or Hemant Batra there is now independent and pursuing his own dreams. So everybody in Adfactors has to be an entrepreneur. Right. Their growth is a part of her DNA, and this whole thing about I don't want to grow, I want to remain a little, then that is we respect that. But if you're in business, you have to grow. Growth has to be a part of the DNA. If you don't grow, how will you meet the aspirations of any stakeholder who depends on you?
But growth could be in it can have different definitions for people. I do get what you're saying.
I'm a boutique firm. I do great work. I won an award. I won this. ठीक है भाई, आपके लिए वो अच्छा है. वो हमारे लिए growth अलग है.
So there's space for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Great. What I my question was about, what we do to foster, this entrepreneurial spirit. Do we have some sort of advantage by way of organizational structures? And, post-COVID, I mean, we know what happened in COVID times. Don't need to go over that. But have independent agencies been able to capitalize on that? Have they sort of, the flexibility and nimble-footedness and all those jargon that we talk about? Do we really walk the talk? Are we truly more flexible in our organizational structure?
I think so, yeah. No, I mean, Madan sir himself said it right now. Each one of us, whether you call them domain specialists, practice leads, vertical heads, whatever, each one of us is running our own shop, so to speak. We come with an entrepreneurial spirit and bent of mind. Entrepreneurship is in our DNA. And that's what we want to empower in the people that work with us. Each one of them is, I like to think of Concept PR as a pool of mini CEOs. Each one is running their own shop. You look at your own P&L. We are here to guide you. We are here to be your backbone, give you the central nervous system in terms of, all the mundane stuff which you otherwise don't need to worry about, whether it's accounts, tech, HR, admin, network ops, stuff like that. But clearly the entrepreneurial spirit and sense of empowerment is what is our DNA, is the way we are wired. I speak as an entrepreneur who was acquired by a bigger fish, which is where I sit and represent today at Concept PR, and clearly that is the culture that always existed in Concept PR, and I carry forward within the team as well.
Okay, but just to strike I'm just trying to be a little, what's the word for it? See, we're talking about you were an entrepreneur and you got acquired. I'm talking about people a little lower down in the chain. Are they truly empowered in PR? I see a lot of very overworked, anxious people, young people when I meet. And these are real things, Are we sort of giving them the right environment?
I think if you are empowering somebody to even think that this is not what they want to do, just to deal with your point of overworked young people dealing with anxiety and life's issues today, which seem to become so larger than life for this Gen Z. I think we grew up just fine, but I'll leave that for another day. I think if you are able to empower somebody to think that this is what they don't want to do, I think that itself is a sense of empowerment.
Okay. I'll just like to get quick views from everyone in terms of have they experimented with their organizational structure in the post-COVID scenario, or how do they see differentiating themselves from, let's say, network agencies which have more, rigid structures in place? Do they see that as a winning sort of, point on their side?
So, if I may comment, so flexibility.
Yes, please.
So this is also a very big misnomer. Flexibility can also be your nemesis. For example, flexibility is counterproductive to good health. If I have I exercise all the flexibility to eat whatever I want, sleep and wake up at times that I want to or can't do, I would probably end up having bad health. So I think this is also the biggest nemesis for independent entrepreneurs. Trying to liberally use flexibility. Probably the concept of flexibility, one is flexibility about working timings and working from home, and I'm not talking really about that. I'm talking about flexibility with respect to, staying to your business vision and your business goals. If you do not exercise that flexibility, you will probably be able to create greater value. At the same time, when it comes to, of course, doing things in the people domain, you have to be flexible. There is no doubt about it. And that flexibility is part of your inflexibility, that I will come whatever. I will give that flexibility. Even if my client is going to suffer, somebody has to step in. But if this person needs that flexibility at the point of time, then I'm going to give that flexibility to the person because I'm inflexible about the need to give that flexibility.
Yeah. Interesting. If I may comment, I think entrepreneurs or founders of independent agencies need to apply the same standards that they apply to themselves to their employees. Okay. So for example, like Mr. Madan Bahal said, if we have the privilege of feeling that we are empowered, arrogant people, I'm saying allow our people also that kind of flexibility without compromising on the work. Okay. For example, take yourself a lot less seriously, but take the work that you do very, very seriously. I think that is very important if we have to preserve an entrepreneurial culture within an organization. Casual versus informal.
So structurally, I believe, and that's what makes every agency unique. Structurally, I believe, and I'm not talking about flexibility, I'm talking about everything, right from how you look at a training program or how you actually effectively look at, we're left with 2 seconds. And Amit is a stickler of time, so but I'll just quickly summarize that we are structurally completely different. We are functionally zoned as a agency. We let people with right skill set to do their job, and our training is we call it flip training because we do not look at giving training to our team members based on what is required by the entire team. Account managers look at account executive, look at what skill set that they need to develop for this year so that they can become more productive next year. And then the whole training program is structured. So and I'm sure there is uniqueness in every agency, independent agency, in terms of the structure that they follow, and that makes them unique in the way they are operating.
Thank you, Amit, I'm going to ask for special permission. I want Madan to.
I think the agency, the post-pandemic, the post-ChatGPT agency cannot have the same structure. That structure is dead. Do we have the agility to move at the pace at which the structural change is required? Most of us will find it challenging to do it. Yes. But our own survival even in the next 3 years depends on how quickly we move with those structures. There's a lot of work happening in our own organization. For the moment, it is in the works and classified, so I won't be able to talk much. But structural changes are critical to providing a value proposition that's relevant to the times. I mean, you can't have the same VP doing the same kind of a job that the AD is doing, the same kind of job that the manager is doing, the same kind of job that the A is doing. More things are required currently.
A lot of creativity gets sucked into those layers. So yes, thank you for that, Madan. Time is absolutely up, but are we allowed to take a couple of questions?
There's a small deliberate extra thing happening. There will be questions available at that time. We announce that. You can find out this, please.
Okay. So thank you all so much.
We saved no questions.
I hope there were some takeaways. Thank you.